ABHINAY, welcome to the Raj and Pablo show. Usually there's two of us that would be gnawing away at you, but luckily you only get one, so you get half of the dose. Um,
No, thank you for having me, man.
for those people who don't know, it's 10 years of Delhi Belly, right? And you directed the movie. Um,
Absolutely.
In fact, I remember going to watch a special screening of it in London. And just before we start the interview, I just wanted to share this with you. I actually remember coming away after watching that movie going, somebody's actually had enough guts to make a movie like that. So I think that's a good starting point. So when it all
Yeah.
happened, you knew Amir Khan and his wife Kiran were involved, and it arrived to you. Was there any moment you thought, and I'm going to use this word, shit, I'm going to make this movie?
Yeah. So actually, the way it really worked was, Amir gave me a call and and just threw it at me, saying that, hey, this is the movie, and would you like to do it? And I said, okay, let me just read it. And I read the script, and trust me, actually halfway into the script, okay, I was like, shit, man, this is something that I have to bloody do. There's no way that I'm going to say no to this film. This is on. This is completely me.
So
And it's about time that somebody did some, a film
I
like
was going to say, I mean, it was very, very timely. But in terms of like reading the script, reading it on paper, and then transferring that onto celluloid, I mean, either you could have thought, okay, this is quite a simple script. It tackles the
yeah,
issues that haven't been tackled before. Let's put it on screen. Or you think, okay, we're
yeah.
gonna have to. Was there a certain amount of we're gonna have to be clever about this? We're gonna have to see how we handle this situation.
No, absolutely. Because India particularly had never seen anything like this. The West is used to films like that.
Yeah.
But India for sure, and India being such a polarized audience, with which has very strong opinionated point of views about things, we had to kind of make sure that we handle it right. Because I, as a director, I was like the biggest challenge for me was to think that, hey, you know what, there is somebody who's written a very bold scene here, and it makes complete sense. I just have to make sure that the scene does not tilt towards obscenity, and the
Yeah.
language does not kind of get into a sensationalizing kind of a situation. We need to make sure that everything remains under the aesthetic realms of humor and does not move into adult x-rated, and that's when the shit was going to hit the ceiling in India. And we made sure that it doesn't, and that's what the challenge was pretty
So
much.
I suppose in a way, would you say this is, I'm right in thinking that there was a purpose to this movie other than just making a good movie?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about it. Because one of the things, I mean, of course, I don't think that's how it began. I mean, Akshat started writing this film obviously in his UCLA as his, as one of his projects or something like that, and then it ended up after 9 years
Well, we
on
heard it
Amir
was
Khan's
lying in a
table.
pile before it got noticed, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it took 9 years for it to realize. And when it came to me, I never looked at it just as a film. I said this is opening a door or a window in Bollywood, which has never ever even known to be existing. Like people said, when they saw this film, they were like, wow, we never even thought that this thought process or this kind of bent of thought ever existed in Indian, filmmakers. So that, I think, was an extra element of things that, which was not initially thought through, but eventually we had to think.
So was there an element of, I mean, obviously you get excited about a release anyway, but were you extra excited about the release? When you wrapped up and it was all done, you were like, I can't wait for this movie to release.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, actually, while we were making it, one of the thoughts in our head was, is this movie ever going to see the light of day? Or are we going to get banned at the censor level or, at various levels, moral police and, all those kind of things? Are they going to ever let this film see the light of day? And then, so the excitement was tremendous when It came down to the censor board meeting, and then it came down to the release meeting, and then it came down to the distributors meeting. It was like every step as it cleared, it was like a burden off my head saying,
So,
"Whoa, man."
so there must have been, okay, we've talked about you know, the progression of it, and the change it's made. Well, we're going to come back to that, but was there ever a point where you got home after filming thinking, what am I doing? Why don't I just go give me some songs and give you some costume changes?
No, see, that's the best part about it. I think being the first film, and being an advertising person prior to that, I was always very, very clear that this is the film that I want to make. The way it is written, the way it is, envisaged, or I have that vision to make this film in this particular way. And I never ever, I remember this distinctly, that over the 1 year that we shot this film, never did I ever regret a single moment, single shot in the film, saying, "Oh, what am I doing?" That never came into my mind. It was always like, "Man, this is fabulous what I'm doing, and thank God for this."
Well, you know, so you directed it, production house, AAMIR, KIRAN. So were you guys always, and you mentioned the writer as well.
Mhm.
And I mean, were you all on the same page? Was there any time Amir kind of said, okay, you know what? I don't know if I like this, Abhinay. I don't know if this is going the way I want it. Because, I mean, you know, he does. I mean, he knows cinema. Let's put it that way. Was it
Oh yeah,
daunting?
yeah. No, it is. Well, when it began, perhaps it was a bit. We kind of took a few days, few weeks to kind of get onto the same page, because the good part was Akshat and me, the writer and me, were on the same page, like spot on, right from day one. Because we spoke the same language, we understood the same humor. But when it came to Amir, while he got it, and I may tell you that Kiran, I think, gets it much more than Amir did, because
Mhm.
Amir was used to a certain kind of cinema, and that's what his exposure was. And but he is such a intelligent and an incredibly evolved filmmaker that it barely took him, moments to understand that, hey, what, this is something completely out of the box. So he knew what it was, but by the time he kind of got in tune with us, it kind of was maybe about a week or so. And then week later, there was never looking back.
I mean, apart from the subject matter of the movie, there was a lot said about Imran being in the movie.
Mm.
Obviously, he's related to Amir, so it wasn't a surprise. But
Mhm.
how was it working with him? Because I think, if I'm not, I mean, he hadn't done that many movies at that time, and this was kind of a switch from what he was usually used to.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually, he had done one film before this, and he was not in the film because he was Amir's nephew. He was in the film because I think one of the biggest things that I wanted in the casting process was to not bring on anybody on board which had a larger than life persona, because it was an ensemble film.
Yeah.
It was not a film where it is one hero
Well, there
who
was Veed in
dominates
it.
and
There was
everybody.
a KUNAL in the movie as well. Yeah, everyone
Correct. So
equally as good
that's
as each other.
absolutely. And the minute we would have taken on somebody who was big in one of the roles, that
Yeah.
would have kind of overshadowed everybody else. So this was something that I did very consciously. That Imran, and trust me, Imran was so right for that bit, that part. That he actually in real life is like that. He speaks like that. He is
Yeah.
like that. So I used him for who he is, and that's why it worked.
So, okay, I'm going to ask you, um, what were the fallouts? What were the big disagreements, scenes, lines, or was it ever, okay, we're going to pack up for the day, everybody take a day off and we'll come back to this?
It never happened on set, okay, because I was extremely clear. Amir was extremely trusting of me, because he was like, okay, take me through the film the way you see it. Took him through the film on one particular day in about a couple of hours, and he said, well, it's fantastic what you're seeing, and I don't need to, there's no
Yeah.
questions. As a producer, I'm satisfied. He never came on the set even a single day. There was not a
Wow.
single day's work that ever kind of had any fallout business at all. There was no disagreements. And it went like a smooth sailing ship. But But in edit, when we came down to the edit, and when we started seeing the edit, that's when I did the director's cut. Amir felt that there were few scenes that maybe we should not show, because he looked at the scenes, and reading it on paper is one thing, and when you see the scene,
well, were they pushing
and
the
you're like,
envelope a bit too far?
too far. According to him, he said, "Listen, we're going to get rogered by the censor board, and if not the censor board, then people are going to actually take offense and maybe pelt stones onto our offices and things like that. So I would really not want these scenes to be there." So there were a couple of scenes in the film.
But do you think in hindsight he was right?
No, not really, because actually none of that reaction that he expected or we anticipated ever happened. I mean, people.
So you
were
didn't
very,
take them out then?
very,
You left
very
them.
liberal.
You did take them out.
No, we never took them out, because then I dug my heels in, because I said, Amit, we can't do that. It's unfair, because it is a scene, and look at it. Look at the scene. The scene does not feel that. He said, yeah, but in hindsight, it is like that. I said, but a movie is not looked at in hindsight, right? A movie is looked at, when a person is looking at it. And he said, yeah, but I don't know, I'm not sure. And we kept kind of deliberating on it for about a month. But post that, he was magnanimous enough in his heart to say, you know what, I don't agree, but go ahead.
Well,
I'm with you.
It's a brilliant movie. And I want to ask you, before we let you go, being in the creative world, we have an inner voice, I'd like to think. So what would you say in your head? What does your voice say you are what kind of director are you? And outside of it, what do people say? What kind of director do they say you are?
I'll answer the second question first, which is, after this film released, it was very difficult for people to figure out what kind of a director I am, because they had never seen a film like this before. It definitely never came out of India. Okay. And I was this person who had never made another film before this. Right. So everybody was like, 1 second, what is this guy all about? We have no idea what this guy is all about, because he's seeming like he's completely, doing some whacked out film. And so they couldn't place me, because Indian, industry, the film industry is very, very, they slot people
compartmentalized
very quickly. They come, it's like, oh, he's made a hit comedy, adult comedy film. He's an adult comedy director. That's not how it works, really. Because I'm a director. I'm not an adult comedy director. So that was one of the things which happened, that people really couldn't place the finger and put a finger onto a particular way of thinking that I'm that kind of a director.
Did it annoy you that? Did it kind of, did you feel like, well, I'd like them to say I'm a certain kind of director?
No, I always feel, even as in advertising, advertising is a much smaller world, but in advertising also, what I've always done is I've done very different kind of films. Like I've done a drama, I've done a comedy, I've done, action, I've done style and fashion. So I've really dabbled in everything. And that's what I believe. I would have preferred people to say that, hey, he's a good director, not that he is a adult comedy director who is good. I would rather that a director, and I believe that about everybody. I mean, if it's a good director, then he's a good director. You can give him a good subject and give him his space, and I'm sure he will be able to do justice to it.
I guess you've answered my second question there. So you could actually, in your head, direct anything, right?
I absolutely believe that. Absolutely believe that.
Can I just say it's been an insight and a pleasure talking to you, Abhinay.
Yes, thank you so much, Pablo.
Thank you very, very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ruckus Avenue Radio.